Okay, so it's going to be, this is the lineup. Pat, Jennifer, Holla. What is going on? They just turned off the noise.
Where's Jennifer? Oh, I see
Jennifer,
ya. I
so
see ya.
Pat, Jennifer, Holla.
I need one of these to walk around with.
Kirsty has it.
Pat, and then
And then
Melanie
Jennifer
is after.
Is after Michelle Callan.
Okay, so we'll get her here. I haven't seen. Have you?
I have not. Excuse me, Mary.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Where's that big sign?
I signed it wrong.
I walked up there and then just stopped.
Where is okay. I don't think we should be. I think we should be. There it is. I don't know. I don't think I can put it on right now. But I don't know.
Are you in the lineup? Yeah, so you're. I think she could be fine.
What? Let someone wear.
Yeah, so she could be fine, huh?
Okay.
I'll take it on afterwards. Don't worry.
Okay. Okay. I have to wipe down this podium every time someone speaks.
Is that what that was about? Okay.
Huh?
Take a step down.
It's okay. I didn't know what she was doing.
We need to give all the speakers. Can you do it?
I know.
What are you trying to do?
We need to get all the speakers up here. All right, I'm just going to start.
Okay, go.
Hello! Welcome to our Rise Up for ERA Rally for Equality. And what a beautiful day to celebrate the second birthday of the Equal Rights Amendment. I'm Bettina Hager, the ERA Coalition's DC Director and Director of Outreach and Advocacy. Our fearless leader, Carol Jenkins, couldn't be here today, but wants you to all know that she's here with you in solidarity. Today, we declare the Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land. Nearly 100 years after first being introduced in Congress, the ERA was passed by the required 2/3 of Congress, 3/4 of the states ratified, and now 2 years after being ratified by the 38th state, Virginia, takes effect. Thank you to all of you who have worked so hard to see this happen. The ERA Coalition forced the ERA. We have an excited to mark the significance of this moment. To hand this over President Feminist Majority, Vice President of the National Organization for Women.
Hi, everybody. I'm so glad it isn't that cold. We can handle this. And we can also handle the fact that we're archived to certify and publish. But in the meantime, we published it ourselves. I know that Virginia ratified, and I think they now are equality vote equality. And I'm thrilled that they have the Constitution. So we have won. The ERA has met all the requirements for the ratification of an amendment, and we intend to get it certified and published. Why do women have to work twice as hard for half as much? Even now, they're throwing more wrenches in it. But no matter how many wrenches, we're not going to lose another generation of women and people and LGBT people and people who are not binary. We're not going to lose any. We want a country where everybody's full potential is not only realized, but they can't be discriminated against. They are denied that. This is a matter of, I can't even explain how hard it is, but how worthwhile it is. What would be a world of full equality? And the message that came out of our press conference today is we're going to make sure this amendment is enforced. And we're going to start, we believe it is in effect, and incidentally, the House of Representatives now has a resolution saying that the Equal Rights Amendment is ratified, and that it should be certified and published. So we're going to have the House soon. We are going to make sure that we spread this word And I know that we're going to try to get states to look at their constitutions, but not only that, their laws. This is our turn. We've already wasted 100 years of fighting for the obvious. Just imagine, 100 years. I know we're celebrating 50 years since it passed Congress, but it took us 50 years to get it passed by Congress, and now another 50 years to get the states to ratify, and then 2 years to wait. It's enough already. Get this thing passed. So thank you. Thanks everybody. We're going to try to cut everything short because we've already heard, the message has been heard by the White House. I'm turned around. And as you know, the president has issued a statement of his support of the Equal Rights Amendment, and they have moved the Trump OLC, which is the Office of Legal Counsel's memo. So, but we don't think that's enough. What we want is the archive, publish and certify it. That's the message, and we're going to deliver to the Attorney General right after this. I think we're up to 80,000 petitions, about 80,000, and they're coming in very rapidly. There is no question that we have a majority of this country, a super majority. We're in about 80 to 90% of the polls, depending on which poll, and so we're going all the way. It's my pleasure now to introduce the Vice President of the National Organization for Women. By the way, the National Organization for Women endorsed the Equal Rights Amendment in 1968. And we have kept it at a high priority. We're going to keep it. And one thing, if they had given this to us in 1968, we wouldn't have the power of the political movement that we now have. We have now huge PACs. We have political action committees. When I say we, I mean the whole crowd of women's movement organizations. And we're all together. Every organization's with us, but of course now has been leading the way. So I wanted to introduce Bear Atwood from the National Organization for Women, Vice President.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here today with a crowd full of feminists ready to get the ERA and the Constitution. And as far as we're concerned, today it is in the Constitution. It is part of the fabric of our society. And that is just an amazing, amazing thing. NOW has been at the forefront of bringing the ERA into the Constitution since the very beginning, as Ellie just said. And our members marched and were out in the streets. And then when we moved on to the last 3 states, NOW members were instrumental in getting the ERA passed in Virginia and Nevada and Illinois. And we know that NOW members will be instrumental in getting the ERA into the Constitution, certified by the archivist. We're ready, and we're ready to work in coalition with all of you so that we can not just have a celebration of the ERA and the Constitution, but we can enforce the ERA and people will start getting the benefits of the ERA right away. So I am so glad to be here with all of you today, and I look forward to us working together to move this process forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bear. And now I am pleased. ERA now! ERA now! ERA now! Thank you.
Let them hear you in the White House.
Now! ERA now! ERA now! ERA now! So thank you so much. Yes, ERA now. We'd love to move on to our next speaker. We know it's cold. So I am just so thrilled to introduce Senator Pat Spearman from Nevada. State Senator Pat Spearman led the successful charge for ratification of the ERA in Nevada in 2017 and brought the ERA back to life. The ratification was the start of the final push in the last 3 states needed. And Senator Spearman, we couldn't be more thankful to you for your leadership, for your passion, and just for being you. So we can't wait to hear from you.
How we doing? How we doing? We'll try it again. How we doing? All right, I am State Senator Pat Spearman from the great state of Nevada. And 36 is a lucky number because Nevada was 36. We were the ones that took it on after 45 years. And let me tell you what, we are not tired yet. I don't know how many of you all know that I am also an ordained minister, and one of my favorite scriptures in the book that I read and call holy is Galatians 6 and 9, and it says, don't get weary when you do well, because you will succeed if you don't faint. I'm taking off my coat not because it's hot, but I'm taking off my coat as a sign that I'm ready to join the fight too. Don't get weary. Now, I know the things that has happened over the last couple of years since 2017 is that we do a start and we do a stop. We do a start and we stop. We say we're almost there and then something happens and it seems like it knocks us back or it knocks us down. But we get up again and we keep on pushing. And then something comes along and it knocks us down again and we get up and we keep on pushing. And so my message today to those of you who are here and those who are watching live stream, don't get distracted and don't get discouraged. The people that do not want to see equality are counting on us getting down and going down and staying out. But the message today is we have not begun to fight this fight for equality. Do not take our rest. Do not take our pause for a sign that we are tired, because we've only just started. The people who marched and the people who walked and the people who prayed and the people who were jailed and the people who were stomped and the people who marched and the people who were jailed and the people who talked, all of our ancestors are us today now, and they are strengthening us for this fight. We will not be deterred. 2015, when I first brought the ERA bill to the state Senate, they heard it in committee, but then refused to get it out of committee and bring it to the floor. And I just remember walking down the halls of the Nevada State Legislature, and I'm listening to women cry and some men crying, and everyone was just so discouraged, so discouraged. And I made a promise to them. I said, you know what? Help me get back to the Senate in this election. And I promise you, this will be among the very first bills that I pass. And not only me, take the entire legislature over, because we need people in both chambers who believe in equality. And guess what? They did it and we did it. Here's my message to you. I will say to you, as I said to them, and as I said to those in Virginia, as I said to those in Georgia and everywhere else, they made the mistake of giving me the microphone. When people do not want to take your equality serious, and if your equality doesn't mean as much to them as it does to you, if you cannot change their minds, change who sits in their seats. And so in 2022, we have an obligation and an opportunity to look out at the landscape. It has already been ratified. We need people in both houses of Congress, and we need to make sure that the White House stands with us to say this has been done. Now let's get on with the fight for more equality. Be not weary when you do well, because we will reap. We have already won. We just got to keep marching. We have already won. We just got to keep talking. We have already won. We just got to keep on voting. We've already won. We just got to let folks know, ain't going to let nobody turn me around. Ain't going to let nobody turn me around. Ain't going to, come on, say it with me. Ain't going to let nobody turn me around. Let's keep the fight going. God bless you.
Up next, we are joined by former Virginia State Senator Jennifer Carroll Foy. Jennifer was one of the women in Virginia pushing to get the ERA ratified in the 38th and final state, Virginia. And of course, that is the anniversary we are all celebrating today, thanks in part to her dedicated leadership.
All right, I said good afternoon. I am proud and excited to be here with all of you today. Today marks the second anniversary of the ratification of my Equal Rights Amendment resolution that I carried along with Chief Co-Patron Hala Ayala. So today marks the second anniversary of Virginia finally being the 38th and final state needed to enshrine women's equality into the United States Constitution. Now, we cannot allow a flawed opinion from the Office of Legal Counsel under Donald Trump. It must not be allowed to stand in the way of our rights, because we have accomplished the task required. We have reached the mountaintop. It is time for the U.S. government to give us what it owes us, and that is constitutional equality. But we know that power never concedes without a fight. It never has, and it never will. Let us not forget that it was our very own Constitution that counted blacks as 3/5 of a person. It took the 13th Amendment to remedy it. Let us not forget that it was the 15th Amendment that passed to give black men the right to vote. And yet it took the Civil Rights Movement and the passage of the Voting Rights Act to make that vote a reality, and the fight still continues. Many times our country has got it wrong, but now, today, it is time for us to get it right. Let me be clear. We will not be moved, and we are not deterred. There is no deadline to do what's right. We are here to agitate for equality, to disrupt the status quo, to fight fearlessly for change. We demand our just dues. 160 million women and girls across this country are waiting for their day to stand in the sun, to know that their fundamental rights to be treated as equal as human beings to men should finally be enshrined into our founding document. This fight is about truth. It is about justice. It is about fairness. It is about all of us. It is about the fact that there is only one way today to spell equality, and that is E-R-A. Let's get this done. Thank you all.
E-R-A now. E-R-A now. E-R-A now. A now. Whoa! Now it's my pleasure to introduce the other partner in the Virginia Drive, the other major co-sponsor. And the first time I met her, we were in a baseball stadium, I think, trying to fill it. She was the founder of a Small Now chapter, and she said, we're going to fill this huge baseball field. Well, she didn't fill it the first time. She's filling fields. As you know, she ran for lieutenant governor, came very, very close. She's just at the beginning of her career, and she is got equality in her heart. She is a person who believes in movement, was powerful in trying to start a NOW chapter in Virginia. Not that we don't have many NOW chapters in Virginia. I'm just saying this was a new chapter. And she always thought very, very big, because we are changing the world. And I know that Holly will be at the forefront of that fight to change the world for equality. It's my pleasure to introduce you, but you really need no introduction. You're on the top. We're just so grateful for your work, and for the work of everybody, that the 38th state is Virginia. We're not turning back. We're going forward.
That's
All
right.
It's all yours. Oh, wipe it.
Beef frog. Just a pause. Good morning. Thank you so much. We miss Carroll, but Ali, Bettina, Christian's not here, Bear, and all of you leaders, I stand with you. They're the ones that grew me field when I didn't know that women were not getting equal work for equal pay, when I didn't know that there had been 80 plus prime ministers and women presidents across this world, but not in these United States. When we had lack of representation, when we had lack of rights, these women were at the forefront of fostering my advocacy and fostering my fight for the Equal Rights Amendment. And we stand on your shoulders today, so I want to thank you. You know, you all have been leaders, all of you, even in the audience today, in our movement, and personal mentors to me in my political career for over a decade. And thank you to the amazing leaders who I share this stage with. This movement is big and it's beautiful. I'm honored to have been part of history in the Virginia General Assembly in 2020 when Virginia stood up and spoke out and ratified the Equal Rights Amendment, making us the 38th state. I was proud to walk with Delegate Carroll Foy. We fought with the many women that were in the state house before us and other state houses across this nation who fought, who begged, and sometimes, and I was part of that, got spit at for talking about the Equal Rights Amendment, for talking about equity in our Constitution. But the Equal Rights Amendment is still not in our Constitution. We did the work. Women, men have carried the water for decades. Black women, brown women, Indigenous women, LGBTQ, and so many others, individuals, have worked towards equity in our Constitution. It is imperative that the ERA becomes law and that the White House, this building that stands behind us, takes swift action. Just as we did with the Democratic majority making Virginia the 38th state. Ensuring that the ERA is enshrined in our Constitution will add the guarantee of sex equity and provide the strongest legal protections against future to roll back gender equality rights. It will ensure, and of course, our courts can challenge these discriminatory laws head on based on sex at the federal, state, and local levels. It will ensure that we'll change the lives of women and all who will come after us to create a level playing field. And it'll be enshrined in our Constitution, especially as Republicans across this nation are fighting for every part of our democracy and equality. It's incumbent upon us. It's incumbent upon this White House. Since 1923, when the amendment was initially drafted, way before I was born, but equality under the right, equality has been spelled out for us. Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on the account of sex. The reality that we've been fighting for decades for our rightful place in the Constitution. It's been 102 years since women were granted the right to vote. It's been 99 years since the ERA was introduced in Congress. And it's been 50 years since the ERA was passed by Congress. And now it's been 2 years since Virginia passed it in the state legislature. Enough. It's time for action. We need equal pay, fair health care coverage that addresses maternal mortality and coverage for caregivers, protection against gender testing, LGBTQ persons, protections against the rollbacks in our rights. And because women and individuals of color face these two folds, it is incumbent, again, that the White House take swift action. And you know what? The ERA fulfills the promise that the Constitution proclaimed, which has stood up against some of the biggest tests and challenges we've faced over the decades. It is a result of the blood, sweat, and tears, and it's almost half a century's worth of work and decades of work, and the water that we have carried. We've done the heavy lifting, and as Hillary Clinton would say, women's rights are human rights. And we need to take these rights and make sure that the White House enshrines them in our Constitution. So for all of you who are watching today, call your senator, call your congressman, call the White House, and demand equality be enshrined in the White House, in the Constitution, because we need to ensure that every individual, not just some, but all, have equal protection under the United States Constitution. Thank you for having me. Thank you. And I love this purple hair, sister. Keep rocking.
Hi. Change on introduction. We're sort of making this up as we go along, and I keep forgetting to. I just had COVID, so I'm now married to a mask. But anyway, I'm going to try to take it off. Anyway, our next speaker is just been distributing all these. Our United States Constitution, and just look at the 28th Amendment and realize that it's in there. Elaine Davis has been fighting for the ERA in Virginia for decades and has been there on the front line, and she wants to introduce the Solicitor General of Virginia, and we said absolutely. So Elaine Davis, a champion for women's rights, who, when we didn't have a chance, she made sure that she could help build a movement that would go over the top. So I salute you, Elaine, and all your work. You've made a difference, and I'm so glad you printed this Constitution. I know you're not the only person that printed it.
No, they're all here.
They're all here. So anyway, Elaine, you give them the credit they deserve.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Eileen Davis. And on behalf of the Virginia contingent that's here today, we thank you for all of you that traveled further to be here today. Yes, this is our Constitution. Thank you to our angel donor for helping us get these out. I want you to open it and look at this Constitution. Stunning in the simplicity to see the 28th Amendment published in a Constitution, and you got to really stop and pause in its banality and wonder what the world has made this so hard to get done. It looks like it's been there all along, and it's always belonged there. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, make sure you get this out there. And Mr. Fierro, all you need to do is certify it, because we went and published it for you. But anyway, I'm here today to introduce Michelle Callan, who is the Deputy Solicitor General of Virginia, and then became the first female Solicitor General of Virginia. And anyway, she's here with us today, and I want to just tell you about this woman, this phenom. She is amazing. When I first met Michelle, she was given the task of working on the Equal Rights Amendment. Little did I know, they say, take a leap and a parachute will open. Well, she showed up and we were right into the stratosphere. Virginia v. Fierro is her work. She has been absolutely amazing. And I wanted to tell you a personal story. She wanted to get the brief done before she went into labor with her second daughter. And I called her up one afternoon and asked her how she's doing. And she says, well, I'm in a meeting right now talking to the AG and this team. She says, because I'm in labor. I said, wait, what? She says, I'm in labor. She's in labor in the hospital having an Equal Rights Amendment meeting, just wrapping things up. This is the strength of a woman. This is the kind of dedication that we have. And then the day we ratified, well, we were all in the chamber, and ladies, you all remember that day. I'm sitting next to Michelle, and I hear this little silent whirring noise. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. And I said, Michelle, do you hear that? She goes, oh, that's my portable breast pump. So this is a woman that you cannot stop, and she represents all of us. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you to Michelle Callan, the Solicitor General of Virginia.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is so inspiring to be with this incredible group of women and men here to support equality. The fight for women's equality is as long as this country's history. Sometimes it feels like in our democracy we take one step forward and then 2 steps back, but we keep marching. And I can't imagine marching next to a more inspiring and wonderful group of people as the people we have here today and the people streaming online. Yesterday, we took 1 step forward. The Office of Legal Counsel finally acknowledged that its Trump-era memorandum that attempted to kill the Equal Rights Amendment was wrong. True, OLC could have recognized that the ERA met all the requirements needed for ratification. Instead, it punted to Congress and the courts, concluding that Congress and the courts should decide whether the ERA is part of the Constitution. But that means that now, more than ever, it's important to make sure that our representatives know the importance of equality. So we keep advocating. 17, Abigail Adams asked her husband, John Adams, to remember the ladies. On his way to. But our founding fathers, the word woman appeared no. Three years men, 15th Amendment, members, emancipated men were given to vote, but emancipated women were denied. For equality, the last state needed. For too long, Virginia sat on the wrong side of history. Virginia of the Confederacy. Virginia refused to ratify the 19th Amendment until 1952. Virginia's Attorney General argued of Brown v. Board of Education, and Virginia defended its prohibition of interracial marriage in Loving v. Virginia, and as late as 1996, Virginia fought to keep women out of the Institute. But it is therefore poetic justice that the Commonwealth of Virginia led the charge in the 3-state litigation challenging the Trump administration's refusal to recognize the Equal Rights Amendment. And it is thanks to the hard work and effort of the women standing here today and streaming with us online that we have the requisite 38 states needed to secure the that now takes effect. I know many of us thought that today, 2 years after Virginia's ratification, we could finally breathe a sigh of relief and see the country recognize the ERA as part of the Constitution. The ERA movement has worked for what seems like forever to make the impossible possible. But now, instead of celebrating in the National Archives or in we stand out fighting for recognition, still asking yet another administration. But we no longer have to ask for others to remember us. We advocated our way into state legislatures, into the halls of Congress, and now the courtroom to fight for recognition of the Equal Rights Amendment. And we are not without hope. Yesterday's OLC opinion fuels that hope. OLC told us what we have to do. We must muster up just a little bit more strength to fight for recognition of that achievement in the courts and through Congress. If you need inspiration, Vote Equality has copies of the Constitution with the Equal Rights Amendment printed right in it. The 28th Amendment at the end of that printed copy looks like they're all along. With this new OLC opinion, Congress has now given us a clear directive on how we can assure that we remember the ladies. Recognize the Equal Rights Amendment. The House of Representatives acted, and it's now the Senate's turn to pass SJ Res 1. I know it is exhausting to run a marathon, reach the finish line, and then be asked to start running all over. We remember the ladies, and we assure the Constitution remembers the ladies through recognition of the Equal Rights Amendment and through SJ Res 1. Thank you.
And just a quick announcement, if anyone is interested in getting some more of these amazing constitutions, right there. We have plenty. Please take them home for your friends and family.
Next, I'd like to bring up ERA champion Melanie Campbell, a dedicated leader and partner in the fight for equality across genders, generations, and races. She is the president and CEO of the National Council on Black Civic Participation and the convener of the Black Women's Roundtable. Melanie, please come up.
All right, Ellie, you know, I'm a native Floridian, so y'all, I'm feeling the sisters who are just taking off the coat, but I'm gonna have to hold on to mine, you know. But I'm there, I'm ready to fight, so I gotta have my coat on. And thank you, Ellie, because you know you were the one who really kind of connected me to a lot of these issues, probably 25 years ago, and all the kind of issues that impact women in this country. So I thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Carol, and all the sisters and all of you gathered here. I want to thank President Biden for making the comments that he made today. I think that was very, very important. Thank the Congress members who support us. Thank all of the, what is this, the badasses, if you mind. I live in the Commonwealth of Virginia, so it's really good to see my sisters here from Virginia and all who continue to fight this fight. And we know it's time for justice, because ERA is about justice. ERA, yes, it's about equality. It's about equity. It's about understanding that as women, in all the forms that we are, and a few good men, understand now is the time. I tell you, it's been rough fighting the fight. We've been out here fighting around voting rights, and I believe the people who don't believe in equality also don't believe in voting rights. We know 94% of the American people support ERA to be included. And I love the fact that it's been printed and we're going to make it real. We know it's not a partisan issue, as partisan as this world is right now, when we know 90% of Republicans support. We know ERA is not a generational issue. People of all ages, including 99%, support the ERA. The ERA is an economic issue when we don't make what we're worth. We know ERA is a human rights issue because without ERA, we don't have the full protections that we deserve. We know ERA is a democracy issue because real equality comes when all have unencumbered access to the voting ballot to elect candidates who respect and uphold voting rights and value and promote such issues as economic, educational, and gender equity and equality. I thank my home state that I live in for doing what they did, doing the doggone thing in Virginia. And we're gonna fight some craziness we're going through right now, but just hold on for a little while. We'll correct it in 2022 and 2023. So it was great to just come. I got all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, all has been said, right? And at the end of the day, one thing that history does matter. Words matter. Putting it on paper matters. Putting it in the Constitution matters. And the archivist needs to understand the importance of the record being there for the generations who are yet not here yet. And so we're standing on the shoulders of those who came before us. We're standing on the shoulders of those who, like my sister Ellie, who've been fighting the fight, my sister Jennifer, who's been fighting the fight, all of you who've been fighting the fight. We're gonna get this done. Time is now, ERA now. Just get the doggone thing done. Thank you.
Thank you, Philly. You're always there when it counts. Thank you for being here in cold weather and hot. You're there. Thank you very much. And the next president and her organization also has been there for decades. The League of Women Voters, by the way, was the first group that I joined after college, or I think it was graduate school, I don't know which, but we all then worked hard to make sure that the League would be the Equal Rights Amendment. It has for decades, and it's so important that it's there. It's been leading the fight also, or definitely pushing voting rights day in and day out. I'm trying to think of a way to put it, but after the League of Women Voters really was born by the suffragists, and were intent upon getting women to not only get the vote but to exercise the vote, and it took decades. But we now are the majority of voters, and one of the things that wasn't mentioned, that Nevada now has a majority of women in its state legislature, the first state in the union. Anyway, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Virginia Solomon, who is not only the president of the League of Women Voters, but a champion of the Equal Rights Amendment and a wonderful leader. So may I please
thank you, Ellie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. So I'm just going to ask this question one time. What do we want? Right. When do we want it? My name is Virginia K. Solomon. I'm the CEO of the League of Women Voters. I'm so excited to join all of you here today. You know, at the League, we have a value statement that says that we believe in the power of women to create a more perfect democracy. And the ERA is an important piece of our democracy. This amendment must be codified in our Constitution now. We don't have time to wait. We see attacks on women every single day. And right now, this president will be nominating a black to the Supreme Court. But we also know that they will come out and attack her. See, women have faced attacks time and time again throughout history for our health care, through our jobs, through simply existing in this country. So we don't have time to wait. And I am so proud to be part of a group of incredible men and women and non-binary people who have stood up for the Equal Rights Amendment time and time again. And since the 1970s, really, the League of Women Voters has fought hard to see the ERA become part of our Constitution and guarantee the same freedoms for all of us. And in order for our democracy to work for all of us, it has to include all of us. And so gender equality and the vote, you can't separate the two of them. We've been here fighting time and time again to ensure that we can pass voting rights legislation. And I will tell you, some people asked me last week, you know, how do you feel that the vote failed? And I said, what made you think it failed? We were just setting the table for the main course. We didn't fail. We actually got an elected president to change his mind on the filibuster. That's not a failure. We actually got Congress, the Senate, to debate voting rights on the floor for the first time in years. So this delay for the ERA is just that. It's a delay. Virginia set the table. That was the appetizer. The main course is coming. And we stand here with all of you. And I will say, my friend Alexis McGill Johnson at Planned Parenthood told me one time that it's okay to get weary, but we cannot get wary. And I will say to all of you, do not be wary. It is okay to take respite. It is okay to rest, but know that the fight continues now and we will win. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Virginia. ERA now. So I'm so pleased to introduce now Joy Dugan from Equality Now. Joy. Oh, okay. Well, we are so thrilled to have Joy here, who came all the way from New York. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My name is Jory Dugan, and I am at Equality. It uses the power of the law to create enduring equality for women and girls everywhere. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to the ERA Coalition for organizing this event and bringing us all here today. It is incredibly powerful to be surrounded by so many diverse organizations and activists united in one common goal: to make the ERA the 28th Amendment of the United States Constitution once and for all. The United States likes to think of itself as a global leader, ahead of the curve when it comes to championing democracy and human rights. But we all know that the myth of American exceptionalism is just that. And that we, in fact, have much to learn from the rest of the world. This is especially true when it comes to constitutional equality. When it comes to constitutional equality, the United States is a global outlier. 85% of UN member states guarantee equality and non-discrimination based on sex and/or gender in their constitutions. And 94% of constitutions adopted since 1970 include constitutional guarantee of equality on the basis 94%. The majority of countries around the world have recognized that patchwork legislation is not sufficient to protect the inalienable rights of women, girls, and marginalized genders. They have recognized that constitutional equality is the most effective bulwark against changing political winds that may seek to strip us of our rights. They have recognized that a woman's rights shouldn't depend on what state or territory or province she lives in. They have recognized that the Constitution is a powerful cudgel against the scourge of gender-based violence, harmful practices such as female genital mutilation and child marriage, as well as discriminatory citizenship laws. It is past time that the United States recognizes these truths as well. Arguments like, we already have protection for women and girls, we don't need a special amendment, or the Equal Rights Amendment wouldn't actually impact everyday lives of Americans, don't hold up from around the world. In Nepal, a marital rape exception was invalidated because it violated the country's constitutional sex equality provision. In Germany, laws that were insufficient to protect women from being fired were struck down because of the country's constitutional gender equality provision. In Tanzania, the Court of Appeals found a law which allowed girls of 15 to be married off while boys had to be 18 to be unconstitutional because it violated the constitutional guarantee on the basis of sex. And in France, the government has relied on its constitution to implement measures to reduce the gender pay gap, reform parental leave to incentivize equal caregiving, and to provide gender-based violence. These are all real and tangible outcomes that have improved the lives of women and girls and helped to shatter misogynistic barriers that stymie all people. In addition to depriving American women and girls of full constitutional protection, the failure of the United States to adopt the ERA, international treaty and human rights obligations. The only way to remedy this is to certify the ERA now. The United States must no longer stand apart in failing its citizens. It is time the U.S. guarantees the fundamental right to equality on the basis of sex in its. Thank you for having me here today.
Our next speaker is Donna Lent. She is the president of the National Women's Political Caucus, and she has also come from New York City today to be with us in person for this important day in feminist history. Thank you so much for joining us, Donna.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if you're as cold as I am, but right now I'm feeling pretty toasty. The coldness is over. So let me start by saying happy birthing day. This is the 2-year mark for the ERA passage, and it's happy birthing day for the 28th Amendment to the Constitution. And yes, I know that we have been involved. My members of my organization have been busy making phone calls to recall that LOC memo, and I want you to know it worked. The calls can't stop. The calls can't stop because now we are in for another big battle. And I hate to say it, well, you know, where I come from, I live on Long Island in New York, and they've given me a nickname. My last name is Lent. And the nickname I have there is Donna Relentless. Because that's exactly how I work each and every day. And I call bullshit on the archivist. I want him to publish, to certify. There is nothing blocking him from doing so. Do your job. Everybody, do your job. Do your job. Do your job. Do your job. So, you know, there's a sign here today. You know it. But guess, now print it. Certify it. You know, it's a cold day and everybody came out here and we're so appreciative. I know we have a contingent from our Virginia chapter here today. Thank you. They are always in the mix when it comes to the ERA. We appreciate that so much. But you know, the fight for the ERA with the National Women's Political Caucus started a long time ago. And in 1977, in a speech before our biennial convention that year, Jill Ruckelshaus, a Republican woman who fought for equality, an early member of the National Women's Political Caucus, gave a speech. And I want to give you part of that speech here today. Everybody's been out for a long time, so I'm not going to repeat what everybody else has said. I think by just saying I call bullshit says it all, right? So listen carefully. And this is my message to you from Jill Ruckelhaus today. We are in for a very, very long haul. I am asking, I'm sorry to, for everything you have to give. We will never give up. You will lose your youth, your sleep, your patience, your sense of humor, and occasionally the understanding and support of people that you love very much. In return, I have nothing to offer you but your pride in being a woman and all your dreams you've ever had for your and nieces and granddaughters. Your future and the certain knowledge that at the end of your day, you will look back and say that once in my life, I gave everything I had to. We need an ERA on the books, codified now. Don't give up. We still have a fight ahead of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And I was fortunate enough to have been in the audience when Jill made those words. And those were the days when this was a very bipartisan country, and it's a little different now. But her words were very strong there. But I can tell you, I would think it would be around 71 that speech was given, or 72, or it was at the beginning of the 70s. None of us thought it would take 50 years. I've been involved for more than 50 years. No, I thought this was going to go fast, I have to tell you, because you're fighting for the obvious. But as you know, it's been a long fight, but we're almost there, and I can feel it. And the Congress is going to have introduced a resolution in the House next week, which says clearly that the Equal Rights Amendment is valid and it has passed and it has been ratified, and it already has it has a huge number of co-sponsors. We believe it will pass, but whether or not, we know we have the Equal Rights Amendment, and we will not sleep. We will not turn our back. We'll never give in until justice is ours. But it isn't just ours. This is a fight for the world. And here, that half the population and then some, because it also includes the LGBT community, it includes binary people, and it includes all women and girls. For too long, our potential has not been used. We are not going to sacrifice yet another generation of young women. This is, and I really believe that they, in some ways, were very foolish to make us fight for this long, because it has build and build and build a big movement. But right now, our rights are under attack, not only worldwide. The Taliban in Hungary, they just closed the Ministry for Women's Affairs. It has a different name, but they had a ministry. They have a right-wing movement going on. And right here in our own country, we thought the right to privacy and guaranteed in the Constitution, which would guarantee women being able to make their own decisions about their health care. And now we see it under a threat. We must have a guarantee of full equality, that we are capable of making our own decisions, that we do not need to be secondary to anyone. And so we are going to make sure this is ratified and that it is enforced. And believe me, we're not going to waste another generation. Now, is we wanted to end this with a collective of women right here in DC. They call themselves the Purple Movement. They have banded together to fight against misogyny, which exists too much, and sexism through the arts. And so they are going to do a performance, but they would like to extend to you the opportunity to participate if you would like. It's going to be a performance in both in English and Spanish, and so it gives me pleasure to introduce the Purple Movement.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Juana. So happy to be here with all of you.
My name is Karen Morales Chacana, and I am member of Purple Movement. We are an inclusive collective of women in DC that was born in response to the viral performance of Chilean group.
Las tesis.
Sí, to call out sexual assaultment, misogyny, and sexism in our patriarchal society. So here we are with ERA Coalition and partners to demand that ERA is finally part of United States Constitution. And we adapt this with permission of Las Tesis 2019 performance, their song, so we can sing and scream for the equality right amended, and we have shared the lyrics. All of you have these chant lyrics for the chant with you, so we hope you can join us, please. Because we will never shut up until ERA is no longer held up. Thank you. So, if you need some copies, I have my friend here with copies, and I hope everyone can sing with us. Hola, hola, hola. Okay. So we do some movements too. Patriarchy is a judge, judging us since birth. And our punishment is the violence that we bring. Patriarchy is a judge, judging us since birth. And our punishment is the violence that we breathe. Femicide and rape, harassment and abuse, unequal pay, inequality to choose. For equality, we demand the ERA. For our daughters, our moms, we demand an ERA. For equality for all, we demand an ERA. For our daughters, our moms, we demand an ERA. En español. ¡Woo! El patriarcado es un juez que nos juzga por nacer. Y nuestro castigo es la violencia que ya ves. Sado es un juez que nos juzga por nacer. Y nuestro
want to invite everyone to gather together as a group. We are going to walk to the DOJ to deliver petition signatures asking that the memo be removed. Jennifer Tucker is right here. So if you can please go over to Jennifer and we will march over together. And if everyone could come to the front, we want to do a group photo. And also very much want to thank the hosts of this event, the ERA Coalition, Feminist Majority, NOW, Black Women's Roundtable, League of Women Voters, National Women's Political Caucus, Women's March, and Feminist Front. Woo!